Good morning, YouTube. Home Theater Joe here, and this is going to be my first part in the LG CX calibration series. I think it needs to be broken up into a couple of parts because there's so many things to get to. I myself have put probably, I would say anywhere from 70 to 80 hours on this display calibrating. Really, to be fair, 60 to 80 hours calibrating this display. This is the first display I've ever calibrated, and it was a long learning process. So I would like to share that process with people. Anybody that may be interested, maybe help shortcut them a little bit. Let me also say that I'm just a guy talking to my cell phone, so maybe you shouldn't do what I do. All right, let's get into this. I think the first thing to note here is we have two menus. We have a user menu, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. All TVs have this user menu here, and we all mess around with it. That is with this guy right here. We also have what we call a service menu. Now, in order to access the service menu, we need a service remote. You can pick these up on Amazon for whatever display you have. Now, the first thing that I want to do is, and I don't even think this step is necessary, but it's something that I read about a long time ago. I'm just in the habit of doing it, but the way Calman LG Home works and the way the TV is set up during calibration, I don't think this is necessary. So we're gonna go to step one. I'm gonna hit Instart on this service menu remote, and then I'm gonna hit 0413. Now the first thing we'll notice is over here under white, adjust white balance, you have an NG0, and everyone will tell you this is bad, this is terrible, blah blah blah. My research tells me that after I believe it's 1,000 hours, the TV does a cycle reset. The display will do a full cycle reset, and after that NG should go away. So please don't freak out. There is no problem with the display, but I will tell you how that got here in just a second. So if we scroll down here to OLED, this is the only thing. Wow, let me say this. When you're anywhere in this service menu, my suggestion would be you take a picture of everything you're looking at. Anything you're going to mess with, you need to know what the original setting was. Yeah. So let's just go down here to 12 OLED. This is the only thing we need to worry about here in this menu. We go over here to TPC enable, and we just turn that off. Same thing with GSR enable. Turn that off. Now what this is going to do is keep our display from lowering the overall brightness as we're doing calibration. Honestly, I don't think this is a necessary step, and if you're anything like me, you may leave it off, which is a bad thing because this will really help fight static logos and images. So listen, I think you just leave these on. This is just something in the beginning that I was told you need to do. I just don't think that's the case anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of the Instart menu because this is not really where we need to be. What I want to talk about today mostly, boom, the adjust. Sorry for the blurriness. We're going to go here, press the adjust button, 0413. Okay, now this is going to bring us to our white point menu. I'm going to go over here to white balance, and these are some things I want to discuss. As you can see, we have our temperature, color temperature of cool, medium, and warm. This is all not going to make a whole lot of sense, and let me apologize for getting my radio face here into the image. We have red, green, blue, gain. This is all fine and dandy. Red cut, green cut, blue cut. I have been told Under no circumstances are we to change these bottom three. They always stay at a value of 64. Don't ask me why, I don't know. But I am told we do not mess with these. Well, that's what I've learned. I could be wrong. But where we really need to focus right here is our red, green, blue gain. And I'll have you notice something else. If we go over here to medium, we see we're set at 192, 192, 192. All right? This is full dynamic range. Very important. When we achieve full dynamic range, let's just go over here. We're on warm. So this affects warm 2, warm 3. Okay. I'm not sure how this is going to translate, but we're going to go from 160, 128, okay, to 192. I don't know if you can see that screen changing, but it is. Now, 192 all the way down. What does that mean? We're at full dynamic range. Over here, medium is already full dynamic range. Over here at cool, it is not. Now, full dynamic range is gorgeous. We're not even at calibration yet, y'all. This is just the first part. Full dynamic range will give you access to everything the panel can give you. Pretty sure. Dependent on the source that you're feeding it, of course. But we want full dynamic range, I believe. I mean, there's a small part of me that wants to say, if you go full dynamic range, medium, warm, cool, well, you don't even need to calibrate. But I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say is, two things are important here. We're at full dynamic range, okay? Sorry, I didn't switch cool, but let's just say that all of these are at 192. And I'll go down here and reset this, which you're not supposed to do. That's how I got the NO on the initial service menu. But boom, I'm going to hit reset anyway, because I don't care. I'm like a rebel without a cause. As you can see, we have reduced our values back to 160, 128. So we're no longer in full dynamic range. Also, if you'll notice, my backlight is set to 100. I would never really recommend that. I would say leave your panel, 50. Give it 50%. That'll help the longevity. For me, I'm up here at 100 for the simple fact that out of the box, this display is not on par with the average C10 as far as brightness goes. So I do keep it at 100. Let me get out of the weeds, back to the point. Full dynamic range is gorgeous. It's important. You may not even have to calibrate after that. But when you do that, you will lose variation between your warm, medium, and cool. So every time you say, I don't know, you want to switch to a game and you should be in like your medium white balance, it'll be exactly the same as your warm 2 white balance. Now, a lot of people like to calibrate everything in warm 2. I like when my video games are, a little poppier, a little punchier. That's why I think out of the factory, they leave the medium white balance here at 192, full dynamic range. So, just to recap really quickly, full dynamic range is very important. However, if you choose to go full dynamic range on all settings, you will lose variation. There will be no difference in picture. Unless, of course, maybe you turn off the peak brightness or whatever, your luminance will go down. So I think for this discussion this morning, I kind of want to just highlight here, I love the dynamic range, the full dynamic. But for me, it's more important to be able to actually switch the temperature of the screen depending on what I'm doing. So for movies, I always want a warm 2, color temperature. For games, I'm always going to want medium, which is medium and warm 1. Cool, the only time I would ever use cool is when I'm watching anything or doing anything during the day and there's a lot of light coming in, yada, yada, yada. But I typically stay away from cool, never cool. So this is all very important. In another part to this calibration series, I'm going to go over how to physically calibrate your red, green, and blue gain here in the service menu with Calman LG Home. But that's a different style of calibration. So, listen, as I said, so many things to go through here. Let me get to the meat of this and try to wrap it up. I would start with my white balance menu right here for warm, and medium I would leave at 192 as well, and I would probably keep cool at full dynamic range. I don't really care about cool right now, but I really want to talk about medium and warm. So I think it's up to the user, but for sure, we can start with putting everything at full dynamic range. I'm not going to do that for calibration purposes because I have some more stuff to do, more calibration work. I'm going to leave these values right here. So in the next video, the next part, the next series, parts of this series, we can actually go in and start running this stuff. But for me, we're going to start with this white balance and we're going to leave medium at 192. I mean, cool should probably be up there at 192. Just stop. Let's just stop messing with ourselves. I mean, that's my preference. So cool and medium, they're going to be at 192, and you're not going to get any variance between those two. See, cool should be really a bluer tone, a bluer screen, so I should probably back that back down, but who cares? We're going to have lots of fun with this. As I said, there's just so much stuff to do. So let's start here with our white balance menu and our service remote. And then we can calibrate from here. So again, one more time, probably don't leave your backlight on 100. I would think you do not need to do that unless your peak luminance is somewhere around 640 nits in HDR cinema or Dolby Vision cinema mode, like mine is. Not very good. So please, if I were you, and I'm not, I would not leave the backlight at 100. But I think that's about it. Also, whenever you make any kind of adjustment in this service menu, you have to back out by using the same button you came in with. So I have to hit adjust to back out of that to make sure that the TV saves those settings. I have probably rambled way too much, and I think that should do it for part 1. As always, thank you for listening. Be good, be safe. Boom.